All right, welcome everybody to this week's Rising Tide Foundation lecture, and I'm so very happy that we are joined back again by Professor Andrea Assis, who really blew a lot of people's minds. He certainly opened up my mind and the horizons of potential of as far as appreciating what is the battle of science, what is the real potent tradition in science, which has resulted in the best of the discoveries with his last lecture on Wilhelm Weber and Wilhelm Weber's revolutionary breakthroughs in electrodynamics. Today, he's going to add to those insights, which are going to be linked in the description box under this video, that previous lecture that he gave for the Rise and Tide Foundation. But today, we're going to look at a lot of experimental work that was done to allow for many of the eurekas that have gone underappreciated over the last 2,000 plus years. And I'm sure we're going to have a nice, robust discussion. Everyone should just know that the facility, the hotel where I'm in, is going to be closing in 2 hours. So after the hour and 15 minutes of Professor Aziz's main remarks, his formal presentation, we'll open up for about 45 minutes of Q&A, of dialogue. And then, unfortunately, I'm going to have to close shop, sadly. So I don't want to take up any more time. So, Professor Aziz, the stage is all yours. I look forward to learning as always. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthew. I wish to thank you, the director of the Rising Tide Foundation, for the invitation the second time together. My pleasure, and all the audience that is here with us today. So I will begin sharing. Let me know if you can see my slides.
Yes, we see them very well.
Okay. So the title is The Experimental and Historical Foundations of Electricity. The experiments that I will present today, I didn't create them. I did learn about them specifically with low-cost equipment, with a colleague of mine from the University of São Paulo, Norberto Ferreira. He spent 1 year doing a postdoc at Paris, and then he did publish a book on the electric charges with his collaborator, Maury. And it was from this book and about conversations with Ferreira that I did learn these materials. So I will present some experiments, and if we have time, then I will discuss some of mysteries, which I believe still exist in electricity. The material which I will be presenting today is based on 2 volumes of a book with the same title, The Experimental and Historical Foundations of Electricity. And I have another book with a similar approach to mechanics, Archimedes, the Center of Gravity, and the Law of the Lever. All of them, they were published in Canada by Apeiron Press, located in Montreal. And these books, they can be ordered from Amazon, but all of them, they are freely available in PDF format in my homepage. Electricity, as we know it, the oldest experiment from electricity, is quoted by Plato, the philosopher of Greece, in one of his dialogues. He mentions that amber, which in Greek is called electron, when we rub it, we can attract light bodies, bits of paper, cotton, grass, even some insects, and so on. And so this is 2,400 years ago. And along all of these years, things didn't change essentially. For 2,000 years, we only knew that when we rub amber, we can attract different kinds of light bodies. In 1741, a French scientist, Desagoulier, showed that we can also deflect a thin stream of water from a tap. Before that, Gilbert had shown that we can also attract water. Later on, we will come back to these two phenomena that I'm showing here, the amber effect and the deflection of a stream of water. But what I will begin showing is the oldest instrument to study electricity, which is called the versorium, which was built by William Gilbert, and he describes it in a book on the magnet, which was published in 1600. He was studying essentially magnetism, the magnetism of the Earth, lodestone, and things like that. And he wanted to distinguish the attraction of the lodestone from the attraction of the amber. So he also described some experiments on electricity. And the device I will show here, this will be my first experiment that I will show. And my versorium, I hope you can see it here. It is just a brass fastener, okay? Very simple. We just deform a little the head of the brass fastener so that it does not slip. And I will just support it in a toothpick, okay? Okay, I'll just put it here. So it is just one element. The toothpick in a cork is just to support it, okay? It is just like a compass needle, but it is not magnetized, okay? And I don't, instead of the amber, I will utilize a glass tube, a plastic tube, and I will rub it with kitchen paper, okay? Paper towel, okay? I will just rub it. Before that, if I just come close to the versorium, when I don't, for instance, I have a plastic tube that I will not rub it. I can get close, nothing happens, okay? But now I will rub this plastic tube and get close to it. So I'm just rubbing it fast, and then I get close. When I get close, it spins, okay? I can change and it spins fast, okay? I don't touch it. I just come very close to one of its sides and it spins. I can control the direction of the spin and so on. So this is the oldest instrument. It's just like a magnetized needle, but it's not magnetized, okay? And Gilbert did utilize this instrument. It's more sensitive than attracting light bodies, because when I attract light bodies, I need to go against gravity. But in the versorium, I will only turn it because the weight of the fastener is supported by the toothpick, okay? So I only need to turn it. So a very tiny force can spin it. And so Gilbert did utilize this instrument to discover other materials which attract like amber. And in these materials, at the time of Gilbert, people knew about amber from Plato. Then in medieval times, they did discover jet, a kind of coal, or bitumen. And but then Gilbert did discover other materials which, when we rub, they will spin the versorium or attract light bodies. these materials which he described were, for instance, diamond, other amethyst, opal, other precious gems, sealing wax, resin, and mica, okay? But there were some materials, for instance, I can repeat the experiment now, rubbing a piece of wire, okay, with my paper towel. And I get close and nothing happens, okay? I can rub it very fast, and when I get close, nothing happens. So these materials, which when we rub them, nothing happens. We do not attract light bodies and we do not spin the versorium. They are called by Gilbert non-electric. So to Gilbert, he created this name electric, utilizing the Greek name for amber, which is electron. So what he called electric materials are amber-like materials. That is, they behave like amber when we rub them. And between the materials which he could not move the volume were all kinds of metal, like ebony, cedar, cypress, and so on. He quoted lodestone. You can try to rub a lodestone and you do not move the versorium, and even flesh, okay? So this is a very sensitive instrument. So he made this first classification, which is important, but later on it was abandoned. This classification made by Gilbert. We can discuss that later on. But up to now, we only see attraction, okay? In the textbooks, we begin talking about two kinds of charge, attraction and repulsion, but for 2000 years, people only saw attraction. So now I will show a second instrument in which we can easily see a new phenomenon. So the first instrument, the versorium, has only one component, which is the fastener. The second instrument that I will show here has two components: a disc, which can be made of paper, in this case aluminum foil, and a thread, in this case a silk thread, okay? I can do the experiment in my hand, but it's not so practical or convenient. So I will utilize a pendulum. So it's very simple. So we have here my disc and the thread. I tie the thread at the extremity of a plastic straw. Here I have another fastener, brass fastener. I just put it here and a second straw here. So I have now my pendulum, okay? But not to hold it in my hand, I will just fix it in a support. The support, I have a plastic cup of coffee with a hole with a fastener, and I fill it with plaster or modeling clay, okay? So I can just put it here. So now I can do the experiment. So this is just my pendulum, okay? Just my pendulum. I can control its height, and now I will do the experiment. So once more, the experiment, I always begin rubbing my plastic tube, okay? So I rub it and I get close to my disc. As you can see, the disc goes towards my rubbed plastic tube, okay? This is the usual attraction seen by Plato and by Gilbert. But now I will show something new. Take notice, please. It's subtle, but very nice. I rub again, and now it begins to be repelled. Okay? So we can see now repulsion very easily with this instrument. So now it is vertical again. If I come closer once more, it continues to be repelled. Okay? If I wish to begin anew the experiment, I just need to touch the disc with my hand. Okay? I don't need to press it, just touch it here. Now I can, if you see, if I come close, it is being attracted once more. If I close to this side, it is attracted once more. In order to see repulsion, there is a crucial step, which is to let them touch the disc and my rubbed plastic tube. So I will now let them touch, and immediately we begin to see repulsion. They touch, after they touch, they repel. Okay? If I go away, come back, they continue to be repelled all the time. Okay? To begin again, I just touch my finger here, and then I can begin once more. They will be attracted. If I don't let they touch, they will always be attracted. Okay? If I let them touch, they attract, immediately they are repelled, very much repelled. They go very far away, okay? Very much repelled. So this is a new phenomenon. This may seem trivial, but for 2000 years, no one did recognize this repulsion as an electric phenomenon. Now I will continue my presentation, and then we make some more experiments. So can you see my?
Yes.
So this is the versorium of William Gilbert. What I am beginning to show now is something new, which was new to Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton didn't know, for instance, about the distinction between insulators and conductors of electricity. Isaac Newton did not know about the existence of positive and negative charges. This is amazing because we begin every textbooks on electricity talking about positive and negative charge. Opposite charges attract, charge of the same sign repel one another. So we think that was known for the old Greeks, but this is not at all the case. All of these discoveries, they are very recent in the history of science, the last 300 years. So the electric pendulum, which I showed here, so it has a silk thread and a paper disc or aluminum foil disc. Okay, these phenomenon that I did show here, attraction, contact, and repulsion, it is due to Charles Dufay, a French scientist. He discovered that in 1733, 6 years after the death of Isaac Newton. Okay, so this is after Newton's death. So he didn't utilize the pendulum as I utilize here. The pendulum is a simple way to show the phenomenon, okay? But this discovery came after Isaac Newton. Now I will do some very important, I will try to do it here. It's called the floating feather experiment. It was first performed by Garrick in 1672, then by Stephen Gray, 1708, and then by Dufay in 1733. This experiment is very important in the history of electricity. I will try to repeat it here. So I will stop once more I will try to make the experiment. I hope it will work. It does not always work, it's subtle. So what I have here, it's like a small piece of cotton or a dandelion seed, okay? It just falls when I release it. Then I rub my plastic tube, and then the crucial aspect now is to say the correct words. Wingardium Leviosa, and then okay, I hope you can see what I'm doing now. Okay, this is a levitation. I am levitating this small piece of cotton or this dandelion seed. Okay, so this experiment is very nice. This is was performed, as I said, by Garrick, Gray, and Dufay, and it is another example of this attraction, contact, and repulsion, ACR mechanism, okay? And this experiment, so in the first place, the dandelion seed is attracted by my rubbed plastic tube. And then after it touches my rubbed plastic tube, it begins to be repelled by it, just like my electric pendulum, okay? Now I will try an even more remarkable experiment. It's similar to the dandelion seed, but now I hope, if it works, that it will show something even more remarkable. I begin once more rubbing my plastic tube, okay? Very fast indeed. And then I will let it fall, okay. So now I hope you can see that I am levitating it, okay? Now I can also levitate it from above. From below, I will try once more. Let me see if you can see. It's very subtle. Let me try rub once more. This is a very important, I'm trying to repeat because this is very important. Not only it's beautiful, but very important in the history of electricity. Let me show to you why. So my dandelion seed is being, okay, repelled. Now I am attracting it from above. I hope you see it. I can, repel it from below, but I can also attract it from above. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not so easy to do everything alone. So, but I hope you could see it. So let me continue, because this is very important experiment. As I said, this floating feather experiment, it was made by Garrick, 1672, Gray, and Dufay. And we can explain it by the attraction, contact, and repulsion, okay? But it was with this specific experiment that Dufay postulated the existence of two kinds of electricity. I will read his words, 1733. I began by floating in air a thin gold leaf instead of my cotton or dandelion seed. He levitated a thin gold leaf, just like aluminum foil, by the ACR mechanism. And then he continues, but what disconcerted me prodigiously was the following experiment, this one which I showed that you can repel from below or attract from above. I confess I had expected quite the opposite effect. This made me think that there were perhaps two different kinds of electricity. I will call one of them vitreous electricity. That is what we nowadays call positive electricity. And the other kind I will call resinous electricity, is what we call negative electricity. Both kinds repel the bodies which acquired an electricity of the same nature as that of their own. On the contrary, they attract the bodies have an electricity of a different nature than their own. So this is a crucial moment in the history of electricity, because it was these 6 years after the death of Newton that for the first time someone postulated or introduced the idea of two kinds of electricity. And the first time this rule that kinds of the same nature repel and of opposite nature attract. Okay, so these were the discovery of Charles Dufay, this French scientist. The explanation that we give, I'm showing here in slide 11, is that in the first place, the dandelion seed touches, let's suppose that my plastic tube is negative. So when it touches the plastic tube, the first time, it also becomes negative, and then it begins to be levitated. And then, if I can electrify something like this red plastic straw with a different kind of charge, then I can attract the dandelion seed from above. I can repel it from below or attract it from above. To do it, I'm just let me explain to you how did I do this experiment. By trial and error, with anything that I rub a plastic tube, with a paper or with my hair or with a cotton shirt or with my skin, the plastic becomes negative. It's very difficult to charge a plastic positive. But by trial and error, we discover that if we rub it with a Teflon tape or plumber's tape, I did put it in my fingers and then I did rub it like that. And then these plastic straw became electrified with the opposite charge, positive in this case. And so I can attract it from above or repel it from below, okay? This is a trial and error. It's very difficult to charge a plastic with high enough charge density positively. With anything that you rub it, normally it becomes negative, and with a good amount of negative charge. It's not so easy to charge it positively. But so let me continue. Now I will make another experiment with a third instrument, which is called an electroscope. It is due to Dufay. It has three components: a cardboard, a tissue paper strip, and a plastic straw. And I will now show the experiments that we can do with this instrument. I will interrupt my presentation, and I will show you my instrument. So the third instrument has three components: a plastic straw, a cardboard, and a very thin tissue paper strip, which has a glue in one extremity, but the other is free, okay? So this is a kite paper or tissue paper. This is a cardboard, and the crucial element is this plastic straw. And I can do the experiment in my hand, but I will once more utilize my support here, okay? Just to put it here. And now I can do the experiment more easily. So I will now show the experiment to you. So this is my so I hope you can see. So the experiment, in the first place, I can just rub once more my plastic tube, and if I get close, I can attract the strip, okay? I hope you can see that I can attract the strip. It comes towards my rubbed plastic, okay? But this is not the main experiment. The thing becomes more interesting when first I rub it here, and then I will scratch it on the top of my cardboard, really touching them and scratching, okay? When I do like that, you can see the strip goes up, okay? And it remains there, okay? So I am charging the electroscope when I do like that and when I rub it here. So this is just like the gold leaf electroscope, but much simpler, this costs nothing, and it is extremely sensitive. But this is not yet the main experiment. The main experiment comes next. Please take notice, because it is very simple, but it is the most important that I will do today. Take notice, please. I will just now let the strip very high, and then I will touch the cardboard with this plastic straw, okay? It is touching there. Nothing happens, okay? Now I will touch the cardboard with a metal wire. When I touch it, immediately it discharges and remains discharged, okay? This I will repeat because this is extremely simple, but this is the most important experiment of today. First I electrify my electroscope, and then I touch it with a plastic, which I didn't do anything with the plastic. I can even touch the strip. Nothing happens, okay? It just stays electrified. But the moment I touch it with some metal, like this one in my hand, the moment I touch the cardboard, it goes down and remains down Okay? So this is the most important experiment of today. Now, I will ask each one of you to take a piece of paper or a cell phone, and I want you to make a predictions, okay? The substances which, when I touched a electrified electroscope with a plastic tube, nothing did happen. So we call them insulators, okay? Just like my plastic. The substance which I did touch and discharge my electroscope, like this metal wire, we call them conductors. Now I will tell here a list of 10 different substances. Each one of you who is watching me on the YouTube, in the internet now, please make a predictions, and then I will do the experiments, okay? So you need to tell me each one of these substances, if you classify them as conductors or insulators, okay? Insulators are like plastic and conductors like metal. So the first substance, human body. Second substance, rubber. Third, wood. Fourth, glass. Fifth, paper. Sixth, cork. Seventh, cotton. Eighth, silk. Ninth, amber. And 10th, water, okay? Fresh water from the tap, not salty water or sea water. So I will repeat the 10 materials. You write each one of them at the side you put, either insulator or conductor, as you guess. And then we will see what happens, okay? I will tell them again. Please, each one of you, try to make these predictions beforehand. This is very important. You don't need to tell me or anyone. Just do it by yourself, but try to make the guess. So I will repeat. Human body, rubber, wood, glass, paper, cork, cotton, silk, amber, and fresh water or mineral water. Okay? Now I will do the experiments. So who is watching me on the internet, please stop the video now. Write the predictions of these 10 substances, and then you press the play again and see the outcome. But make the prediction. This is very, very important. So I will now, so everyone already stopped the video. So now let's see what happens, okay? So I first electrify my electroscope, and I will begin. We put it here in the middle. And so I will charge it very well. I will touch it with my hand, okay? Human body. So human body is a conductor, okay? Because it did discharge my electroscope. Let's go to the second material, which is rubber. I will do the experiment with two kinds of rubber, a flip-flop sandals and an eraser, okay? So flip-flop sandals. I hope you already made your predictions and discharge. So rubber is a conductor. Surprise of many. Let me touch that with my eraser, okay? I just touch with my, here. Discharge. So eraser also conductor. So third substance, wood. I have here a wooden skewer for barbecue, okay? I will just touch there with wood. The cardboard. At the moment I touch, discharge. So wood is also conductor. So glass. I have here and it also discharges. So glass is also a conductor. So the fifth now is paper. I will touch the cardboard with three different kinds of paper, okay? The first is an office paper, A4 paper. I just touch it here. Discharge. So paper is a conductor. I will make it repeat this with different kinds of paper, okay? This is a cardboard. I will just touch it here. Let me electrify it more. And then I will touch here. The moment I touch, discharge. So third kind of paper. This is my tissue paper or kite paper. In Brazil, we utilize these to wrap candies, okay? I just touch the cardboard with my tissue paper. Discharge. So all three kinds of paper, they are conductors. Now let's see cork. So I have a cork here. I just touch the cork with the cardboard. Discharge. So cork is also a conductor. So let's see cotton. Cotton, I can touch with my shirt, but I will just touch it with a thread of cotton, okay? I spool sewing thread, okay? Let me just electrify it well. Before. Now I will just touch with the cardboard. And then let me repeat it here. It's not discharging fast now because I am in a room and now it does not remain so well electrified. I need to do it fast, but it discharges as well. So cotton is also a conductor. Now I will make the experiment with silk. So the experiment will be made with a spool of silk, okay? So I will repeat again. Just touch it here. Nothing happens. So silk is an insulator. Amber, I don't have it with me, but amber is also a insulator. And as regards water, I will just, I have a glass of water here, and I will just let it here. Let me, this is the last one. Let me see if you can see the water. Okay, and now I will electric. Because the strip is up, and I will just touch the corner of the cardboard in the water. Let me turn it this way. The moment I touch it, discharges. I will repeat this one of water. So it is electrified, and I will just touch the corner in the water. The moment I touch it, discharge. So water is also a conductor. So you don't need to tell me the outcome of your experiments. But normally, for most people, they make mistakes in 8% or so. Almost people believe that everything is an insulator, and in reality, almost anything is a conductor for electrostatics. So, as I said, when you touch an electrified electroscope with plastic, nothing happens. With metal, it discharges. So plastic is an insulator and metal is a conductor. This electroscope, low-cost electroscope, to me, it's much better than the gold leaf electroscope that we see in the textbooks, because it costs nothing. Everyone can make one at home in 15 minutes, and you don't need a dome or a container, which usually people suppose there is vacuum inside. My electroscope, I'm doing it in open air, so it is much better. Let me now go to another topic, okay? Later on, we can discuss all of these elements, but why is it important? As I told you, my electroscope, the most important element is the plastic straw. It needs to be an insulator. Otherwise, it will not accumulate charges here. And the cardboard and the paper strip, they need to be conductors. And here it is the most important one. In my electric pendulum, the disc must be a conductor and the thread needs to be an insulator. For this reason, otherwise we will not see attraction, contact, and repulsion. So the thread needs to be either silk or nylon or polyester or for electrostatics. In the textbooks, we see when they try to explain the amber effect, they say that the molecules of paper became polarized when we approach a rubbed plastic or tube, okay? This is the usual explanation, which appears in slide 15. But to me, André, this is the wrong explanation, which appears in the textbooks. I will not give here my own explanation, but you can see that in my book, okay? But I have another explanation. The experiment which I showed in the beginning of the deflection of a stream of water, which appears in some textbooks, but in many homepages on the internet, the explanation which we find in the textbooks or in the internet is that the water molecules, they are polarized. The oxygen atom has two negative charges, and each hydrogen atom has a positive charge. So we have two positive and two negative. So this is like a dipole already. So the water molecules, they are already polarized. So we don't need to polarize them. And people say that when you approach a rubbed plastic tube to the stream of water, you just orient the previously polarized water molecules, and these will attract the stream of water. Once more, to me, this is the wrong explanation. I do believe that the water molecules, they are polarized. I do believe that. But to me, this effect of orientation of dipoles is tiny compared to what really is responsible for the attraction of water. I have another explanation. So to me, this is not mysterious. What I will discuss now are three topics which to me, they are still mysterious, that I, myself, I don't know the answers. For instance, suppose that I have two electrified electroscopes, one positive and one negative. We can do that. When we touch them, they neutralized, okay? How can we explain that? Oh, that's very simple. Attraction of positive and negative charge. Which is the force responsible for this neutralization? Q1, Q2 over R squared. So that's very simple explanation. Where is the mystery? The mystery is how can I begin? Suppose this is a silk tissue and this is plastic tube. Both are neutral. Then I rub them together. My plastic becomes negative and my silk positive. Which is the force which is separating opposite charges? André, I don't know the answer. This force is against Coulomb, and it is stronger than Coulomb. Because if I did begin to the right, to the left, beginning with a positive and neutral, and I did put them together, they did neutralize, I would explain by Coulomb. But here it is the opposite which takes place. I begin with two neutral materials. In the end, one is positive and the other is negative. What is the law which is causing this separation of charges? I don't know. Okay? This is the first mystery to me, André. Second mystery. Textbooks mention that a plastic straw becomes negatively electrified when rubbed in hair due to a transfer of electrons. Every textbook mentions that. Oh, when you do like that, or in my hair, it is just transfer of electrons. To me, this is a mystery still. Is the electrification of two bodies during friction really due to a transfer of electrons? Which experiments prove this assumption, this supposition? I will just quote here the first paragraph of a book by an English scientist, Harper, published by Oxford University Press, Contact and Frictional Electrification. It's a book with 300 pages, many experiments on this phenomenon here. A book dedicated only for that, not with hands-on experiments like here, but professional laboratories at Oxford University. The first paragraph of the book, I will read it here, by Harper. A crucial question for the explanation of the production of static charge is whether the charging of insulators comes from a transfer of electrons, of ions, or of both. Montgomery, a certain researcher, would say that the carriers of charge are always electrons. Loeb, that they are generally electrons. Henry, a third scientist, feels that the question is still an open one. Now comes the opinion of Harper, the author of this book. I am of the opinion that a definitive answer can now be given, which is that the carriers are never electrons when the material being charged is strictly an insulator, just like my plastic tube, okay? So according to Henry, it's never a transfer of electrons. He believes it is a transfer of ions. There are chemical reactions taking place when I do like that, okay? I won't go into details here, but you see, this is my second mystery. And the third mystery, suppose that I did rub it somehow and it did become positively charged, okay? I can have a positive sphere, or I can show the cross-section of my tube, my cylindrical tube. Suppose it is positively charged. The net force on each one of the positive charge is points radially outwards. So they should move away, but they don't. They stay in my glass, my plastic tube. So we say, oh, there is an opposite force pointing inwards. But the third mystery is, what is the origin of the non-electrostatic force Fn, which prevents the explosion of the charged sphere? I don't know. What is the law followed by this non-electrostatic force? I don't know. To me, these are mysteries, okay? There are others. We can discuss that if you wish. Other mysteries. Those of you who have an interest, we also have published with a colleague of mine, Louis Bucciarelli, an English translation of Coulomb's memoirs on torsion, electricity, and magnetism. It is a book with 500 pages, which is available in PDF in my homepage. Those of you who wish, you can order it by Amazon, very cheap. Bucciarelli is an emeritus professor of engineering at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, in USA. So we did join forces to publish these English commented translations of Coulomb's memoirs. Only one or two had been previously translated into English before. Now all of them, the 7 major memoirs on electricity and magnetism, are available in English with 1,000 references, comments, footnotes, and so on. And it was also published in Canada by this Apeiron Press, so where you can order by Amazon, but it is available in my homepage. So in conclusion, the main facts about electricity were discovered after the death of Isaac Newton. They are very recent in the history of electricity, the last 300 years. Many basic phenomena and important instruments must be reproduced by teachers and the students utilizing low-cost instruments. Okay? It's good when the teacher shows the experiments, but it is even better when the students themselves, they build these very cheap instruments and carry them home as a gift, because then they can continue the experiments home. And with this low cost, they cost absolutely nothing. These electric pendulum, these versorium, this costs us nothing. The amber effect is still a topic of modern research. If you wish, we can discuss that. Electrostatics is an open area of research, full of deep mysteries, which should be explored in physics teaching and at modern laboratories. So this is what I want to show to you today. Now, if you wish, we can begin our discussion. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Professor. That was amazing. And these experiments you're saying are all located in Norbert Ferreira's book that you cited at the very beginning. He introduces
most of them, they do. He has there. Not all of them, but most of them, they are available. But all of them, they are in the 2 volumes of my book.
Okay. And I do apologize. My internet is a little bit choppy on my side. So if I cut out, I'm very sorry. Stephen Gray is somebody who I had encountered a little bit in my research, and as somebody who was doing incredibly important work on electricity. And I know that while Benjamin Franklin was a young man in France, in England in the 1720s, he first encountered experiments that caught his attention on static electricity. And I was wondering if you knew if Ben Franklin was looking at Stephen Gray's work, or whether it was a different series of thoughts that introduced him to that.
I believe, Matt, that he was following not directly Gray, but people especially in France, who had followed Gray's ideas, Nollet and others. And it is amazing because that you mentioned, because both Stephen Gray and Benjamin Franklin, they did make their experiments with a glass tube. And it is amazing because in the case of Gray, it was a very specific kind of glass. And Gray mentioned that he did hold the glass in his bare hands and he did rub it in his bare hands as well. And he could make many experiments. But if I tried the same with a glass nowadays, this might be my glass tube, okay, this glass cup. If I just do like that, I will not attract a single bit of paper. I will not spin my versorium. Why not? Because modern glasses, which we have at home, or if we buy in like a Becker or anything, they behave as conductors. But in the old days, in the days of Stephen Gray and of Benjamin Franklin, their kinds of glass were excellent insulators. So this is a very important difference between the old day glasses and the modern day glasses. Most modern day glasses, they behave as conductors. And by Stephen Gray and Benjamin Franklin, they did behave as good insulators. And not only that, they also did acquire a huge amount of surface charge, because Stephen Gray did obtain very huge electrostatic effects at a long distance, which even with plastic nowadays is difficult to repeat. So,
oh, thank you. And I was told that when somebody wears, and you were right, I was incorrect about 80% of the items on that
but
list.
Matt, this happens with almost everyone. And this is one of the most important things that I would like to bring to the attention of the audience today. It is buddies, for instance, a wood skewer. It is not correct to say that it is a conductor or it is an insulator. The correct way to express ourselves is it behaves as a conductor for high voltages, and it behaves as an insulator for low voltages. This is the most important aspect, which is not, we don't learn these in the textbooks. The textbook just classify as conductor and insulator, and that's it. But in electrostatics, for instance, when I charge my plastic tube or when I charge an electroscope, the potential difference between the tube or the electroscope and the ground easily can reach 1,000 or 10,000 volts. It's amazing. The amount of charge is tiny, very small. The amount of current when we discharge is tiny. But the amount of voltage between the rubbed piece and the ground is easily 10,000 volts. And when we have 10,000 volts, wood, paper, cotton, water, everything behaves as a conductor. But if I have a battery, 3-volt battery, AA, AD, or any of these batteries, 1.5 volts, 3 volts, 5 volts, and if we connect a material through this battery, then most of these materials like wood, cotton, water, even my body, behave as insulators. So this is the most important thing, and this is the reason why most experiments in electrostatics, when we read in the textbooks and we try to repeat them, they fail because the textbooks, they are not aware. Essentially for electrostatics, only plastic is an insulator. Everything else essentially is a conductor, with the exception of plastic and silk, okay? And that's crucial, Matt. For this reason, most people make this mistake. Oh, rubber, oh, that is insulator. But yeah, as we saw here, it discharged my electroscope. So for electrostatics, high voltage, rubber can also behave as a conductor.
Okay, so under certain circumstances, certain contexts, rubber does behave like an insulator. So that explains
And
why people say when,
sometimes as a conductor. Yes.
okay, that definitely helps. That's an interesting nuance and surprising that it's seemingly so simple to experiment with, and yet so uncommon for people to appreciate that nuance. Um,
Yes, because one textbook copies the other, and most author of textbooks, they don't do the experiments themselves. You
mm,
see, in almost every textbook, we have the experiment. Oh, if you have a glass tube and you rub it in wool, the glass becomes, let's say, positive. But as I said, if I take a wool and a glass tube and I rub, and I don't will not attract anything, as I said, because modern day glasses for electrostatics, they behave as conductor. As soon as I remove it from my hair, it discharges through my hand. And so when you will not attract paper bead and you will not spin a versorium. So when the student try to repeat the experiments in the textbooks, normally they fail. And the students think that the problem is with themselves, not with the textbook. And so they think, oh, I am not good for physics. Let me do English or history or I don't know. And you see, but this is crucial. This is what makes many people go away from science, because when they try to repeat what in the text, it doesn't work. But the problem is with the author of the textbooks, not with the student.
yeah, absolutely. No, it's such a breath of fresh air because it's so our entire school system is so rooted in memorizing formulas, getting the right answers, and the
Yes,
question of
yes, yes.
simply carrying out these experiments to get the mind to just move a little bit and ask the question is so undervalued that
Yes, yes.
this is really great. Thank you. And Michael, Dr. Michael Claridge, I see has his digital hand up. So from one teacher to another, Michael, it's all yours.
Great, thank you so much. I was wondering about the pace of, okay, now watch this. I'm like, yeah, I'm watching. Now watch this. Yeah, I'm watching. And then when you got to the end about the if I have a tube or a sphere that I think is covered in charges, and then to ask, well, why don't they just fly off? I mean, how can you anyway? Just brilliant, brilliant. I'm like, I don't know. And then I guess it has a fancy name, like triboelectric effect or something like that, where you
Yes,
rub
yes.
and you're asked, well, what force is causing the charge transfer? You know, is it Coulomb force? Okay, I'm like, I don't know. So thank
Yes,
you.
and
I'm
so
going to have some things to chew on for the rest of the day. That's for sure.
yes, and Michael, and these mysteries. This is the last chapter of volume 2 of my book, The Experimental and Historical Foundations of Electricity. I
Okay.
finished volume 2 with these mysteries of the
Oh,
Amber
wow.
effect. You
Yeah.
see, this is not once more discussed, but how can we separate opposite charges? It is not only against Coulomb, it's not Coulomb, because it is against Coulomb. If I did begin with a positive and a negative, and if I do like that and they did neutralize, I would say, oh, of course, because
Of course.
the positive here neutralize the negative there, and the more I move, the more they neutralize each other. In the end, both are zero charge. But the real movie is I begin with two neutral, and I finish with one positive and the other negative.
Yeah.
This is not only against Coulomb, this is stronger than Coulomb, because the more you rub, the more separation you get. Moreover, we don't know the law. For instance, if we knew the law, not only myself, no one knows the law. If we knew the law, let's suppose it falls as 1 over r square, it's proportional to the velocity, it's proportional to the surface area, it depends on the pressure. If we knew the law, in every textbook, we would give an exercise like that. I give you a piece of plastic, a piece of silk or paper, they have 10 square centimeters area. I move them at 2 meters per second. I apply a pressure of 2 atmospheres, then calculate how much charge each one acquires. We don't make this exercise because we don't know the law.
So there was all kinds
the most basic phenomena, the oldest phenomenon of electricity, the Amber effect, goes against our most basic law, which is Coulomb. And we don't know the law which separates these charges. And moreover, as I said, suppose then somehow I can rub it, for instance, in my Teflon tape. Okay? I did rub it in my Teflon tape, it becomes positive. So the cross section is everywhere positive. So it should explode, but it doesn't. So we just say, oh, okay, there is a inward force. We can call it normal force or contact force. But this is a strange force. Because usually, for instance, why does this cup does not go to the ground? There is the gravity. Oh, we say there is a normal force points upward. But normally normal force points outside. In this case, the normal force points inwards. Not only that. If we are satisfied with this answer, oh, it is a normal force or a contact force, then because the same problem appears in the nuclei. Oh, a nuclei of a carbon atom, of iron atom, has many protons. It should explode. Why it doesn't? Oh, then the physicists postulate nuclear force. Oh, then there is an opposite force, which is nuclear force, and that explains the stability of the nuclei. But it only takes place at 10 to minus 15 meters. But the problem is exactly the same here. The only difference is that now it is a distance of 1 centimeter. So it's not nuclear force here. But so if we are satisfied saying, oh, it is a contact force or a normal force, we should say the same in the nuclei. Oh, it's just a contact force or a normal force in the nuclei. Or if we postulate a fundamental force in the nuclei, we should postulate a fundamental force here as well. Because the problem is exactly the same. Only one is centimeter and the other is 10 to minus 15 meters. But the problem is the same. And no textbook discusses that. But it's exactly the same problem. In one case, oh, there is a fundamental force of nature. One of the four is the strong nuclear force, which holds the nuclei together. So you need to postulate a strong, not nuclear force, a strong, I don't know which name force here, but which happens at centimeter scale. But the problem is exactly the same. So the answer must be the same. So no textbook discusses that, but it is the same problem. I don't know the answer.
In the old days, there was a lot of discussions of electricity being fluid-like. And do you think that holds any kind of metaphorical usefulness in terms of answering this conundrum, this problem?
Even if it is like a fluid-like, I cannot see the explanation for that. It can be particulate, corpuscular, many particles together, like we can say the protons in the nuclei or the positively ionized ions in this plastic tube. But the problem is the same. So it can be particle-like or it can be a fluid-like. The problem remains the same. So it must be a different kind of answer. But you see, what I want to point out is that we have exactly the same problem for the stability of the nuclei and for the stability of my electrified tube. And it is, moreover, it is a stable equilibrium. I can hold it in my hand, I am shaking, and it continues to be electrified. Because sometimes people say, oh, this contact force or this normal force is just like electrostatics. They just say it, blah, 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 but no one shows. And there is, Michael, there is a fundamental theorem of 1842 by Earnshaw, before Maxwell. He proved that by electrostatic force 1 over r squared, it is impossible to have stable equilibrium. So if I did electrify this positively, I am shaking it here, the discharge should move away if it were only electrostatic force holding it here. It cannot be, because it is in a stable equilibrium. And the theorem by Earnshaw, it is discussed by Maxwell in his treatise. It was published in 1842. It shows that with force of 1 over r squared, it is impossible to have a bunch of particles in a stable equilibrium. So it cannot be electrostatics.
That shows up, I think, in the pendulum experiment, that it's almost impossible to have the rod and the pendulum be in equilibrium. I've played with it a lot. It just flies right up against it.
And the same with the dandelion seed. Because when I am floating it here, I cannot remain stationary with my tube, because it will fall one way or the other. I need to be moving all the time. All the time I need to be moving it. This is an example of this theorem. If it were stable equilibrium, I would just fix it here, and the dandelion seed would be floating above it for 1 minute, but it does not. It will fall one side or the other. So I need to be moving all the time with my tube. So this force which holds the charge in my plastic tube, it is not Coulomb, by sure. I'm sure of that because of the theorem. So it must be certainly it's not gravitational. Certainly it's not nuclear, because it is. So either it is a fundamental force, or we just say we don't know.
I hear you. And unfortunately, I have to take off. I'm very sorry, but it's great to see you. Great to see everybody.
I'm happy to see you again, Michael.
Yes.
Since England many years ago.
Michael. All right, I got a question from Richard on. Well, actually, Richard, go for it.
Yeah. Oh, you were talking about deflecting the stream of water.
Yes.
You're saying that it's not a dipole force. So I just wanted to put out a guess. Would it be ionization?
Ionization of what?
Well, ionization of the water. Evidently, it's not the right answer.
Well, I prefer to let it hear to the audience without giving my answer. But I discuss the answer to both explanations of the attraction of paper bits and attraction of a stream of water. I give my own explanation in both volumes of my book, okay? So to me, it's not a mystery, the explanation of these two phenomena. I only am mentioning that the explanation which I find in most textbooks, usually in the first paragraph of almost any textbooks in electricity, they begin with the Amber effect. And usually they don't even give an explanation. They just, say that. But when they do give an explanation, my own explanation is different from that which appears in the textbooks, of the attraction of paper bits and of this attraction of a stream of water, okay? Once more, I do believe that the water molecules, they are polarized, but the force of my electrified tube on these oriented dipoles is tiny compared with the real force which deflects the stream. Okay, I do not doubt that the water molecules, they are polarized, but the explanation for the deflection of the stream, to me, it's another one. And I give my own explanation in the 2 volumes of my book. So to me, this is not a mystery. The mystery is what separates charges in the Amber effect, if the charging of this plastic is due to a transfer of electron, ions, or some other phenomena, and what holds the charges here. To me, these are real mysteries. Okay, but thanks for your question, Richard.
And your books are going to be easily available as links in the description box. And as you pointed out, of course, now and I purchased most of your books already from Amazon, and they're very well
Yeah.
priced as well. It's extraordinarily accessible. So that'll all be linked in the description box for those who want to dig in deeper. Stephen Doyle, I noticed, had a thought regarding well, Stephen, are you still there?
Yep, still here, just getting on camera. Professor, really thought-provoking on some of these profound foundational questions in terms of physics and why are things occurring the way they are. In the discussion with Dr. Clearidge on electricity having fluid-like properties, it makes me wonder if that wouldn't imply that magnetism has fluid-like properties. And I actually came across an obscure reference like that. Another thought that comes to mind is Robert Moon's kind of nuclear model and whether or not that's an avenue to pursue. Do you have any thoughts on where we should be looking in terms of science to kind of answer these fundamental questions? Because clearly the current standard models or explanations don't suffice. So I'm just wondering where you think we should start looking to possibly answer these questions.
Okay, that's excellent question. Thank you for that. As regards specifically for the why is the nuclei stable, Matt Ehret mentioned that 2 years ago I gave a talk on the Rising Tide Foundation on Weber's electrodynamics. And Wilhelm Weber was a contemporary of Maxwell, a German scientist who worked at Göttingen University together with Gauss in Germany. And he has a different approach from that of Maxwell, earlier and different. And he could unify electrostatics, Ampere and Faraday with a force law similar to Coulomb, but with a component which depends on relative velocity between the interacting charges and relative acceleration between them. And in the 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, before Rutherford experiments and so on, he did predict, according to his force law, that when we have two positive charges, normally they repel. But according to his force law of Weber, when they are very close together and when they have relative motion, they can attract one another. This is fascinating. And then he made a prediction of an atom before Bohr, Niels Bohr, and of a planetary model of the atom in which the nuclei was held stable purely by electrodynamic forces. This is fascinating, but has been completely forgotten because Weber's and Ampere's electrodynamics have been forgotten. And I thank Matt for bringing these topics to the attention of the Rising Tide Foundation and their public. So later on you can watch this video of two years ago. And,
I was there 2 years ago.
Yes, and Weber, but Weber was working before even the discovery of the electron. Weber died in 1891. The electron was discovered by Thomson in 1897, 6 years later. So Weber could not give at which distance would the two charges begin to attract. He gave only an algebraic formula, but he could not put numbers because he didn't know any fundamental particle. But when we put the charges and masses of two electrons or of two positrons and ask at which distance they will begin to attract one another according to Weber's electrodynamics, we obtain the amazing result of 10 to minus 15 meters, which is exactly the size of the nuclei. Wow. So to me, André, this cannot be a coincidence. To me, this is the essence of the correct explanation of the stability of the nuclei. We don't need nuclear forces. We need only Weber's electrodynamic force. And he did unify nuclear physics with electrodynamics before they were separated. But his work has been completely forgotten. But nowadays, we have published 5 volumes of 500 pages each, 400 pages each, with the commented English translation of Weber's works. And just like this by Coulomb, this one by Coulomb, which I did with Bucciarelli, it has 550 pages. It's a huge book, 550 pages, with all English translations of Coulomb's works. And this is available in my homepage, and you can buy it by $10 in Amazon. The same with the 5 volumes of Weber's works. All of them, I didn't do all the translation. This was a joint work with colleagues of mine from Germany, from Austria, from the USA. They did translate and help with the comments and so on. But now these 5 volumes, which I only edit, and I made just a few of the translations, but these 5 volumes, they are available, freely available in PDF in my homepage, and they can be ordered, each one by $5 or $10 by Amazon. And there you can read Weber's own explanation or prediction of the stability of the nuclei. This is fascinating because you don't need nuclear forces, and this work should be continued nowadays. So thank you that you brought this to our attention.
Question, was the experiment that Weber was working on to develop this, and I think you might have touched on this a couple of years ago with your first class to us, but was this the angular force law that involved the
this is Ampere. This is Ampere.
Ampere's angular. Oh, okay, right.
Yes,
Where you look at the right. Okay.
If we have, let's say, 2 current elements like that, so
yeah.
The force between them will be 1 over r squared, proportional to the currents in each current element, but they will also depend on the angles, okay, that one makes with the other or with the straight line connecting them. There appear 3 angles here, and this was the force of Ampere, which has also been forgotten, Matt. Thank you that you brought this to the attention. In every textbooks, they call Ampere's circuital law the line integral of the magnetic field around the current carrying wire is proportional to the current flowing through the cross-section of the circuit. Every textbook call this Ampere's circuital law. And this is wrong, Nat, because Ampere never worked with the magnetic field concept. He never wrote down these equations, even without the displacement current, that we say, oh, that was the contribution of Maxwell. But Ampere himself, he was fighting against anything circulating around the current carrying wire. This is amazing. So his work in the textbooks has been completely upside down. What they call Ampere's law, he should be fighting in his grave because he was fighting against this concept. And his force law that you mentioned, Nat, which is a central force, has been deleted from the textbooks. It does not appear in any textbook. And Ampere's work had never been translated to any language. Only 1 or 2 papers, but now, some years ago, I made with a previous student of mine, Shaib, João Paulo Shaib, in 2009, the first full translation of his work. It was from French into Portuguese. Then we did publish an English translation. This English translation of Ampere's work is also available in my homepage. And you can see and you can find this force law, which Maxwell knew about that. And he called it that it should remain the most important formula of electrodynamics. That is textual words of Maxwell. He called it cardinal formula of electrodynamics, this force of Ampere. But it disappeared from every textbook. And what they call Ampere's law, Ampere was fighting against these concepts. He never worked with the magnetic field concept. He was working with a force along the straight line connecting the two elements. And so now anyone can read not only the original French, but in commented English translation of his masterpiece. By the way, Matt, this year, 2025, marks the 205th anniversary of Ampere. And he was born in Lyon, France. And many events are taking place there in his native town, Lyon, in France. In December this year, 11th and 12th of December, there will be the last meeting, and there will be a Nobel Prize participating in this conference. It is organized by Alfonso San Miguel from the University of Lyon, and he is the president of the Ampere Museum and of the Society of the Friends of Ampere. And in this conference, it will also be present James Hoffman and Christine Blondel. These are the two main biographers of Ampere, and they will be there. So if anyone wishes to go there, you still have the chance, because it will be in December this year. And I hope to be there as well. And at least people will become aware that his main book is now fully available and commented in English. So
that's excellent. And I'm actually going to be in Lyon tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funny that you're bringing this up. Is the museum
if you have the
there
chance, if
Yes.
you have the chance, the museum is there, and it's an
Ah.
amazing museum. It's the Ampere Museum, and the president of the museum of the Friends of the Society is Alfonso San Miguel from the University of Lyon, of the Institute of Light and Matter, and so you can get in touch. I sent to you later on his contact, and you can visit his. This is a fascinating museum where Ampere did spend his childhood. And
Wow.
so it's a villa outside Lyon, a beautiful place. And so it has been restored in the original configuration. And there are many original equipments and historical information about electricity.
Excellent. Yeah, you just amplified my experience in Lyon much more than I expected. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Kelly, I see you have a question, comment, and Richard has a follow-up question. And then I've just been told by the manager that this little restaurant is closing, so I'm going to have to close it up at that point. So, Kelly, go for it.
It seems we got I thought I knew everything about, or that we knew everything about electrostatics, and it seems like there's a lot more going on. I always thought it was just, when you rub these things, these materials, you're rubbing off electrons, but it seems like there's more happening. We're not sure what. Like when I think of it, one thing you didn't mention was when we are rubbing these materials and doing the magic, it's like we're creating friction, we're creating heat. We never talked about heat, and also something about when you're like microscopically, or you could be spinning these things as well as rubbing them off, like they could be like tiny little spinning molecules or parts of the molecules and doing their thing as well. If you can comment on that.
Yes, this is a good point, Kelly. My suggestion is just the physicists, as I said, they just say, oh, that is just a transfer of electrons. If you have the time to give a look, one of the most important chemists nowadays, his name is George Whitesides. He works at Harvard University. I believe he should be 85 years old now, but he's still active. One of the most important chemists alive nowadays. And this scientist, he works in many subjects in chemistry, but in particular, how can we electrify substances by friction? And he has many papers in important journals. I quote some of them in my book. You can find them later on. And he shows that it is not a transfer of electrons. It is really a transfer of ions. And there are chemical reactions involved when we do like that in paper or in my hair and so on. And the lost something, Matt. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I did, and I lost the internet connection for 2 seconds, but I'm back on, and all is good.
So just to mention, I was just mentioning the work of a chemist of Harvard University, George Whitesides, and you can see the reference in my book. And he published many papers showing that when we rub an insulator with another material, it is not a transfer of electrons, usually. It is a transfer of ions and chemical reactions with water ions and so on, H3O and so on. So chemists are doing research in this oldest phenomenon of electricity from Plato, okay, 2,400 years ago. Not the physicists. Right. They all believe, oh, it's just a transfer of electrons. But the chemists show that this is not the case usually.
Yeah, and it gives it so much more character too, right? Because every single molecule has its own magnetic signature that's unique to it,
and so on, and
its own identity. Exactly, you can't homogenize it so easily and mathematize it in that simplistic way. So it's much more rich for the creativity to hypothesize. It's very good. I unfortunately we have to make the very last follow-up question, Richard, very short because they are closing up here very quickly. So Richard, go for it. Quick question.
Yeah, I've seen another plausible model for the stability of the nucleus, and that's Ito Kale's structured atom model. I just wondered if you've looked at that.
No, I still didn't. I just looked at this by Weber, but thanks for pointing that out. Later on, I will give a look.
Thank you.
Yeah, so once more, Matthew, thank you very much for the second time invitation to be at the Rising Tide Foundation. We are very kind you, the audience, to spend the time, and people who want to get in touch later on through my homepage. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you very much, Professor Assis. This is always a great pleasure. And anytime you have any thoughts you'd like to share, you have an open invitation to always present your ideas, your discoveries, and hypotheses. And like I said to everybody.
The last comment, I just forgot.
Yep.
A friend of yours, John Place, is doing a French translation of this book, my book, The Experimental and Historical Foundations of Electricity. So he's finishing this French translation in French as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we'll keep our eye on John Place's translation as well. And again, all of your links to your website, your work, your books are all going to be in the description box. And thank you, everybody, for sharing this Sunday with us. And till next Sunday, take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.